When you look at the laundry list of Clint Eastwood movies that perhaps could have had a sequel, Every Which Way But Loose isn't the one that springs to mind as an obvious choice. But yeah, it was highly successful, and so they did a sequel. Now, I had a lot of memories of this film from when I was a kid, but those memories were kind of tied to the first one as well. So I could tell you a memory from one of these films, but I couldn't have told you which one it was from. Now, as it turns out, the majority of the things that I did remember were from this one, were from the sequel. I think Any Which Way You Can, despite the Letterboxd score, which says it's not quite as good as Every Which Way But Loose, I would say Any Which Way You Can is clearly the superior film. It's narratively driven. Rather than with the last film that just seemed to be the characters kind of almost Big Lebowski in it, just kind of hopping from one random situation to the next. This one has a very clear narrative. So we pick up with Eastwood's character, Philo Beddoe, and he's just had what he claims to be his last fight. He's going to give up fighting, go a bit straight, and just live out his days working an honest living. But then the mafia get in touch and say that they want him to have just one last fight with their man. They have a guy, a champion, and they want him to go up against him. And while he initially agrees, he decides better to say no, because this fighter has apparently killed some people. He's crippled quite a few. And he makes a sensible decision to say, you know what, it's not worth it. That is until the mafia kidnap his old flame from the first film, the one who was decidedly against him by the end of that first film, who makes a return here, and thanks to some charitable behaviour from Philo Beddoe, actually finally falls in love with him. So the two of them kind of grow close, and she gets kidnapped as collateral to make sure that Philo Beddoe goes through with the fight. So there's a very clear story there, I think, that was completely lacking in the first film. So that right off the bat for me puts it head and shoulders above the first film. Now, the thing with this as well is that there are characters in this that are quite more complicated than you might expect. So the guy that the mafia have, this Jack Wilson, who's the other fighter that they want Beddoe to go up against. When we kind of first meet him, we get the sense that he's a bit of a trickster. He's a bit of a huckster. He's sussing Eastwood's character out. He comes in, he pretends to be someone he's not, and it's really all about finding out who his opponent is, weighing him up, seeing what his strengths and weaknesses are. So you get the sense that this is a dangerous man. This is someone you don't want to mess with. It's someone who does his homework. And he comes off, the fact that he is working for the mafia essentially gives you the sense of who he is. But over the course of the film, we learn that actually, no, this is a man of honour. And though his reputation precedes him, and maybe for good reason, he is a man of honour, ultimately. And he kind of comes around to Philo Beddoe's side to help him out with certain things. And I liked that. I liked that this guy isn't one note. He's not just, we've got ourselves a villain for the sequel, and we're going to get them to go together like head to head and hoorah. But no, actually they humanise this character who could have been an out-and-out villain, and they make him a man of honour and someone that actually, when it comes down to it, once these two men get to fighting, you're not really rooting for either one of them. What you're actually rooting for is for the two of them to just give each other a hug and be on their way. You want these two guys to be friends, not enemies. There's a lot more comedy in here as well. I do feel like this one's a bit funnier than the first one. I feel like that's mostly because the comedy comes out of the story, the mechanics of the story. Like, it feels a bit more real, a bit more necessary. Though there is a lot as well that I would cut out. There's still quite a bit of padding in this one. I think they could have shaved like 10, 20 minutes out of this and made it a lot tighter. There's some stuff with a couple, an old married couple that are kind of having this road trip, and they just keep kind of dipping in and out. They're not really an integral part of the story. They are simply there for comedy value. Like there's one sequence, a rather random sequence, where we see 3 different couples kind of getting it on. You've got, yes, Clyde, the orangutan, getting it on with a female orangutan that Bedo has set him up with. Then you've got Bedo himself and Sondra Locke's character, they're kind of getting it on. And then you've got this old couple. And they're all in the same hotel together, but in different rooms. And they're all kind of doing the same thing. And it's synced up. And yes, it's mildly amusing. But it's just, again, it's just that particular couple, beyond a few laughs that they're kind of peppered in for, there's not a right lot of purpose to them being there. We get the same Nazi biker group back that was in the first film as well. Yeah, a bunch of clowns that they are. These guys pose no threat whatsoever, so it's mildly amusing that towards the end of the film they actually get into a bit of a fight with some mafia guys and seem to be gaining the high ground. And you're kind of thinking, no, really? They've kind of shown the complete utter level of incompetence throughout both of these movies, and then all of a sudden they're taking on these mafia guys. But whatever, it's mildly amusing. But yeah, for me, I appreciated that we had a better story. Appreciated the character arcs, felt a bit more solid to me. The humour, for the most part, worked a bit better. Didn't feel as disjointed. And it's just a better film all round. Like I say, this isn't Empire Strikes Back to Star Wars or Dark Knight to Batman Begins. It's just, they're both kind of average films, really. They're both entertaining. It's just, of the two, this is the one that I would say has more of a clear through line. So take that with a pinch of salt. Take it as you will. Yeah, any which way you can. Have you seen it? Have you seen Every Which Way But Loose? Of the two, which would you say is the best film? Let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, cracking.